Welcome to Bleav In 76ers with your hosts, former 76ers point guard Eric Snow and two Sixers fanatics in Marcus and Teja Dash. Bleav In 76ers is presented by BetOnline.AG.
BetOnline remains your number one source for all your college basketball betting this season. Get analysis of every play, prop, and point at BetOnline. You'll find the latest odds, bracket contests, team matchups, and game trends at BetOnline. Updated odds for everything from live games, the conference championships, right through the Final Four and championship game. BetOnline is your college basketball headquarters this season. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to sign up and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Be sure to use our promo code BLEAV, that's BLEAV, to receive your bonus. BetOnline.AG, where the game starts. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Bleav In 76ers podcast. I'm Marcus Dash here with legendary 76ers point guard Eric Snow and my brother Teja Dash. Last time we saw you guys, last Tuesday, Eric was telling us that he was going to the Golden State game, which he ended up going to. Eric, how was the Golden State Sixers game live?
It was awesome. About 47 minutes.
Yeah.
Talking a little trash and to the people around me. When Joel would score, I was yelling too small. I think it kind of upset them a little bit because they all had something to say to me after the game was ending. Friendly, you know what I'm saying, like friendly batter.
That's good.
But I wasn't really talking to them. I was talking to my children. But they kind of took offense to it, like I was talking to them. Because I have one of my little younger boys was rooting for, obviously, Steph Curry in Golden State, and the other son, the one that's like a Sixer fan. He was, me and him was kind of teasing the other. They let us have it in the end.
I was going to say, yeah, he won out in the end, huh?
Yeah.
That's good. That's good that Warriors fans are respectful. They don't go too far.
Well, I'm not really into the games and stuff like that. It was just the people that were around me. It wasn't like just people, random people.
Okay.
Yeah. Plus, they saw your kid was a Sixer, or you're a Warriors fan. You had Warriors jersey on, so it's like,
Yeah, they were giving.
They already have their inner family thing.
They were giving him high fives.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And me and my other son had on the Harden jersey, so they weren't giving him high fives.
No, they weren't.
But that's cool. It seems that because I've heard Raiders fans watching games back in the Oakland days was tough to be an opposing team in the black hole at the old Raiders stadium. So it's good that the Golden State.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just in general when people get upset that you are fans, or do they just get upset that you cheer in what you say? Like,
yeah,
because Philly isn't known to be so nice either.
That's true. It's funny. I think most teams that are good and have good reputations and have a history of winning, I feel like most of those places are going to let you have it, man. They have the taste of winning on their, in their mouth. And anytime you have an opposing team in your place beating you, it's not going to go down well. It always helps if you win in the end, obviously, if you're the home team and you won.
It's all about being respectful,
Yeah.
Respectful banner. I have no issue with it. As long as people don't cross the line. I didn't have anybody. It wasn't like that. It was just, me saying they were too small for Joel the whole game. Then they started saying too small, and I didn't really know what was too small when they were talking to me. Like, what is too small? Are we as a team too small? Like, I didn't get how they were trying to,
give it back to you.
Yeah. I didn't get that part.
They probably didn't know either.
Yeah.
It's interesting too. You say like the whole respectful thing because I saw recently, Kyrie got someone kicked out of in an arena for saying stuff to him. But back when you were playing, I mean, you could pretty much, it was no holds bar on what people could say, right? Like people pretty much said whatever the hell they want.
Yeah. It was just certain words that everyone knew. If you said the N-word, everyone knew that that's going to be an issue.
Yeah.
So if you heard that, it was like automatic issue. But I mean, we had people behind the bench that were just relentless. I'm sure you heard about the guy that was in DC. Then it was a family behind the bench in with the Pacers. Relentless. So yeah.
Just like shit, you relentless just shit talking.
Oh, just talking. I think the one of the guys' wife was the worst one. She was worse than the guys. I mean, they knew everything about you.
Crazy, man.
Well, it was different.
And now you're a player, you can just go out there and be like, I want him and him gone. And like without question, security just gets rid of them. They don't care what he said at that point. If the player points a guy out, gone. So it's definitely come a long way since then.
Yeah, I don't remember if guys. I know AI had an issue with the Pacers one time. I don't even remember what happened.
Family should be off limits too. I know that.
Coach Brown had an issue with the people behind us when we played the Pacers. I know something happened with that. I know they said something to them. I don't think they kicked them out. But I know something was said to them.
Were they season ticket holders? Were they always there when you guys would play?
Oh, yeah, every game.
Oh, wow.
Oh, man. That's terrible.
I'm not sure. I'm sure they aren't still there. But I'm not even sure if teams sell those tickets like that anymore. I mean, when I say they were literally right behind the bench. So I don't even know if they still do that. I haven't really paid attention to. I know they've done more courtside, but the right behind the bench, the visitors bench. But then people used to always tell me how rough it was, the people that sat behind them in Philly.
Yeah, that's true. So you're just like, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you didn't experience it, but yeah, people would always tell me that. Dude, you play for Philly. You don't hear what they say to us.
That's true. I'm gonna be 2 rows behind the Sixer bench in the Brooklyn game. But obviously I'm not gonna be shit talking.
Not gonna be talking guys. Yeah, you're not gonna be
talking. If anything, I'm gonna be listening in and giving words of encouragement is what I'm gonna be doing.
Okay.
And yelling at Brooklyn for that one.
Well, I mean, if someone's not shooting your 33%, you might give them some lip, Tej.
Yeah.
I might, if Tobias plays, I might give him an earful about letting it fly. So I'm gonna.
Don't place a bet on that game because then your emotions are gonna come out.
Yeah, that's true. Well, also if you do some drinking, more emotions are gonna come out after having some drinks.
Yeah, PJ, get one more rebound. I need one more for you.
Oh yeah. Oh well, yeah. I definitely gotta do that. That really gotta be like, all right, 2 rebounds. Let's do it. I'm gonna be like a counter on that game.
But so obviously a lot to get into since our last time on the show. So we're gonna get into kind of the seeding, kind of a follow up to something we talked about a couple of weeks back. So last time on the show we talked about the final stretch of the season. But since then we've had a blowout victory at Chicago where Joel sat for the entire second half with a calf injury, or supposed calf injury. Then we lost back-to-back Suns and Warriors without Harden, where Embiid played 70 minutes in both those games combined. Then sat out. They both sat out last night against Denver. They got dominated until the reserves came in with Furk and Jaden Springer. The guys made a nice late push in that game. But so now we're 1.5 games ahead of Cleveland and are in danger of falling to the number 4 spot. And a couple weeks ago, we weren't talking about Cleveland at all doing this. We all thought it was more plausible for us to catch Boston, not Cleveland to catch us. So now, based on what Doc has said, how he's more concentrated on health over seeding, What do you guys think about that? Do you guys like this trading health for seeding? Or you guys trading health for seeding, yeah.
I don't know. It's a tough situation for me because some of it is I believe that wholeheartedly, and some of it is because we're getting beat that we're saying it. Guys aren't practicing, so they have days off in between games. So I have to believe if they aren't playing, then it's probably worse than what we're being told. That's what I believe. It's 7 games left, and you still have a chance to get the number 2 seed, and possibly play a team that we haven't beaten this year with home court. I would think that should matter. Which tells me that, like I said, I believe that guys are probably more injured than what's been said.
Do you think if we won the back-to-back games, Golden State and Phoenix, do you think Joel would have played yesterday? Or do you think he still would have been out?
I think it's an injury. I think it's an injury that he tried to play through at Phoenix and probably shouldn't have played that game, or probably should have gotten pulled that game. But if we are managing guys, then the back-to-back is the way to manage them, in my opinion. And then you can play the back, take out, if you miss the back-to-back, then you really have 2 days off before your next game.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was a back-to-back with travel in a hotel. Like, it wasn't like a back-to-back with one of the games at home,
Mm-hmm.
But
I will say, though, we'll get into his interview later, but he did say in the interview it's the healthiest he's ever been at this point of the season. He feels amazing. And that was, the interview took place, after the...
It was after the Phoenix game.
Which is also weird that he said that. So it's like, either he's felt really bad in previous seasons at this point, or it's just weird. It's odd. Yeah, the whole thing is...
Take it by what he said. I mean, probably felt really weird, really bad towards the end of the year. I mean, to have an injury to sit out and have your body not feeling right are 2 different things.
Yeah.
Because you can sit out a game and just to recover versus that injury isn't going anywhere. Like, that's a significant injury that needs to be dealt with in the offseason. That could be something that he's had in the past. Whereas now, he probably feel like, I have an injury that's nagging, and I don't want to risk to make it worse. We don't know. I mean, because they end up on the injury report, and it's very, we don't know to the extent. A guy can sit out, which is amazing to me. A guy can sit out one game and come back another game and play 40 minutes.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it could mean a little bit of both. It could mean, like, overall his body feels good. Maybe at this point in all seasons lately, last few years, he's been, like, run down, like, just, like, overall tired from head to toe. So maybe this year he doesn't feel that, but he's got a little calf thing he's dealing with.
Yeah.
So it could be a little bit of both. Now that we've pretty much taken ourselves out of the 2 seed, then I guess I'm okay with seeding, but it's prioritizing seeding over health. A couple things that are weird about it, because, I know we're trying to protect our best players, and Embiid being one of them, of not having an injury because we've been injured in the playoffs the last couple of seasons. But it's weird because the injury he had last year, he got in the playoffs. So it wasn't like you were playing all back-to-backs down the stretch last year and you got injured doing it. You got injured with a freak face injury.
Well, remember he had that thumb injury as well going in. It was like the final 2 weeks where he had that weird like thumb injury. That actually was kept flaring up all second half of the season last year. So he did have that going on.
But that's not like that's another freak thing though, right? That's not like his knees bother him from playing too much, right? That's just that's a random, like, his thumb got like caught on something, right? Like, I mean, that it'd be one thing if he had like nagging foot that just keeps coming back because he just playing a lot of minutes. Like, you don't get a thumb injury from playing a lot of minutes in a basketball game. You get it because a freak thing happened in a game that got it hurt, right? Like, it's not like it's a wear and tear of coming down a lot on his leg, you know?
Yeah, I mean, the injury isn't caused by wear and tear, but the injury is a nagging injury.
Yes. I agree with that. But the main injury we had that really forced him out of Miami, it wasn't at that point, it wasn't even the thumb, it was the face and the mask, right? So that was like the biggest one. It actually kept him out of games. So, I mean, that happened in the playoffs. So, I mean, anyway, I just random thing I thought of. I was thinking about the seeding thing though. So, I mean, in my opinion, it comes down to, at this point, you're playing for seeding or you're playing for opponents, right? So we're either going to face the Knicks or the Nets in the first round.
Could be Miami.
Yeah, that's true.
Miami had the same record.
That's true. I would think we are trying to avoid Miami, by the way. I feel like that's one we might not want to play in the first round if we can avoid it. So we'll see. Yeah, we'll have a close eye on the Miami Brooklyn race, right? I guess it comes down to who you want to play in round 1 and round 2. If you're the number 3 seed, you'd face Nets or Miami and Celtics, or Knicks and Bucks. Like, who would you rather face out of those two? Let's say Miami. Let's say Miami wins it. So Miami Celtics or Knicks Bucks?
Miami Celtics.
Really? Because you fear the Bucks more. That's what you're looking at, right?
Yeah, I don't want to play Bucks to the conference finals.
Yeah. What about you, Marcus? Who would you rather face with those two?
I'm going to go opposite with Eric, just because we've beaten Milwaukee this year, and Embiid, if you look at his career against Milwaukee, he's done pretty well against Milwaukee comparatively against Boston. I guess I'm just scared of Boston. That's what it comes down to for me. I'm just scared of Boston.
It should come down to that, because if we're really that scared of the first round opponent, then we're not real contenders then. Right? Like if we're like,
if we're sitting up here trying to avoid the number 2 seed over the number 1 seed,
that's more understandable than avoiding the number 6 seed over the 5 seed, right? If we're scared of like Miami, then we got major issues. So, but I am a little bit. The
objective is to be like the Bucks and be the number 1 seed and only have to play Philly or Boston.
Yeah, well, that's too bad. That ship sailed, because
you know what I'm saying. Like that's the thing that they have. That's the advantage that they have.
I know. And if somehow we do face Cleveland, it would be nice to have home court over them if we have to come to that, right? And
it's a tough situation for us, because if we're 3 or 4, we would most likely have to go through Boston and Milwaukee.
Yeah.
If we're 3, Milwaukee doesn't have to go through both. If we're 4, Boston wouldn't have to go through both.
Yeah. Yep. Worst case scenario would be if we're 4, though. No, in that situation, we'd still have to play. If we're 4, then what would happen then? We'd still have to play probably the Knicks in the first round and then Milwaukee in the second round. So, yeah. We also have to think about, I mean, if we're having championship aspirations, you're seeding in the championship in home court there. So at that point, we actually have a better win percentage over everyone except for Denver. So, it's not. That's actually we have it's funny, we have a higher chance of getting a better record than Denver and getting a home court in the championship than we do over getting the number 2 seed at this point in the East. That's funny.
Yeah, that's crazy. Shows you how good the East is this year.
Yeah.
The gauntlet.
Yeah. It's really rough. But yeah, I mean, especially when we're injured right now, it's easy to say prioritize health over it. And at this point, if we're number 3 or 4, I mean, we're still playing. We're going to play them, play both those top teams. So it doesn't really matter that much anymore at this point because we have no shot at getting the 2 seed anymore, which sucks.
Yeah. But besides point 2, Harden playing on Wednesday. So that's what Doc said. But probably not Embiid based on his comments after the game last night. So at least we'll get one back. So the Achilles thing is not that big of an injury.
Didn't they say the last game that James was playing and then they said he wasn't?
Yeah. Yeah, he went through a shoot around. Did apparently threw an off the glass dunk to end his post shoot around warm up, and still didn't play.
But I've seen some people talk about if you're going to sit one, sit both. How do you feel about that, Eric? Like, is there a point to playing one over the other?
What do you mean?
Like, if they're both battling injuries right now, is there really that big of a plus to playing Harden without Embiid or vice versa, Embiid without Harden?
Well, I think they play if they're healthy. If they're healthy enough to play, they play. Because no matter if one of them play, they give the team a better chance to win. So if you can play, you play.
So nothing about
I don't believe in the holding out just to hold out.
You don't believe in like preventative injuries then, like just like hoping.
If he can play, if he's able to play, I'm saying he should play. I don't say let's hold him out just because he's not playing. You know what I'm saying? Like, if he can play, let him play. I mean, we could have won that game last night if James played. I mean,
Maybe.
That ups our chances.
Yeah.
And also in that Embiid interview, he also said that he wanted some time off here at some point. He said he needed a day off or at some point. So he did mention that also in the interview. So maybe he just wanted some time off, get his legs back.
Nice timing for that.
Every other profession gets sick days, huh?
That's true. It's true.
Floating holidays, sick days.
6 days, huh? Sick days and holidays paid. Yeah.
American holidays are kind of weak, so yeah, they need a little extra, some floating holidays out there once in a while,
Gotcha.
Most everybody else gets Christmas off. My guy Embiid had to play on Christmas Day, for crying out loud.
True.
Yeah, but so in that article, so a lot of other things came out. So this is our next topic. I want to throw a couple quotes at you guys from Embiid's article from The Athletic, just to get your thoughts on what he had to say about pressure and the MVP race. So we'll begin here. And this is about a title or bust season. Quote, people have been talking about who has the most pressure to win. People want to mention me. I'm not at the top of that list. I'm not a 2-time MVP. I've never made a first-team All-NBA. I've never won anything. So why is there pressure on me to do something when there are guys that have won a bunch of MVPs and haven't done anything either? So that's the quote about title or bust season. About the MVP criteria changing each year and losing the popularity contest. You could talk about analytics all you want. When you got some guys in the league, the eye test tells you that they were not good defensively, but analytics tell you that they were the best defenders. That's when analytics don't make sense at all.
Shots fired.
I really believe that I'm not well liked, and it's cool with me. That's fine. I'll be the bad guy. I like being the a-hole anyway. I like being the underdog, so that's fine with me. So obviously a lot to unpack, but a lot of media members and former players have criticized Embiid for saying these things right before missing Monday night's MVP showdown with Jokic. So what do you guys think?
Do they criticize him for saying it, or they criticize him for saying it and not playing?
Yes, criticize him for saying it and then coming out the same day as him not playing.
Kind of a mixture, though. Kind of a mixture. Like I know. Shannon Sharp made fun of the whole like underdog, no one likes me thing. He's like, that's BS, man. Like you're just saying that. Like, sure, some people don't like a lot of people, but everybody doesn't like you. That's just not true.
Perkins also was upset at him that this came out, the whole thing came out right before not playing last night. So that was kind of that. So what do you guys make overall of the comments, talking about analytics, talking about just the title or bust season, no pressure? I mean, what do you think about that?
I think if you're a top player in the league, there should be always some form of pressure on winning. Where you get that pressure from, or who you allow to put that pressure on you is different. But if you care and you care about winning, it'll be some pressure to win, because you ultimately play the game, the team sport, to win and to win a championship. That's the number one reason why you're competing as a team, to win and win a championship. So that's pressure. But that's pressure on everyone. Ultimately, the better players and the coach gets the most pressure. So, yeah, I think the pressure is on Joel, but I just don't think he's alone either. I mean, it's Jokic and Tatum and Anthony Davis and
one of his teammates,
James. I think it's across the board. I mean, you know, Giannis gets it, and Giannis already won one. Phoenix, Denver, like they got in the West, and the better your team is, the more the pressure
to win.
And in other words, expectations are higher based on your team and how well you're doing. The Wizards don't have the expectations that the Sixers have. It's a reason why, because their record, their placement, no one seems to think that they'll do what the Sixers are doing. So why would they have that same pressure and expectations? So winning brings some of that too. Your talent and what you're able to do on the court brings some of that, because the better you are, the more expectations, the more people expect you to do, because they've seen people do that. So if you're in the MVP talk and your team is one of the better teams, then they're going to expect for someone who's in MVP talk, since the team is one of the better teams, to make some things happen and win in the playoffs. You call it pressure, call it expectations, you call it whatever you want to call it. That's the same across the board with all the top teams and all the top players that are on those teams, in my opinion. What was the next thing?
Let me let's tackle these one by one. Then I'll talk about that one too. I think he's wrong and right in that one. Like, just because you didn't win MVP, you're runner-up maybe 3 years in a row. You're the number 2 player in the league 3 straight years. Come on, dude. You don't need to win MVP for people to expect more out of you.
Yes.
You're a second overall, dude.
Being second MVP, having the best record in the league. People are expecting you to go past the second round. Yes.
And I think in the last 3 years, he's been like the top pick or top 2 picks in his talent pool in the All-Star game. So, you're recognized by your peers as being one of the best. You're recognized by all voters as being one of the best. You want to point fingers and say, what about him? What about him? What about him? Yeah, sure. Okay. I do agree that he does get a lot more media coverage about his shortcomings based on expectations. But I think part of that, he didn't talk about this in the article, part of that is process related. Philadelphia in general patted themselves on the back for a long time about this being the formula to take you to the promised land, and it hasn't. Do we have the top player, one of the top players in the league because of that process? Yes, we do. And I'm happy for it. But it hasn't translated to a championship yet. That is a fact, right? And it hasn't translated to even the Eastern Conference Finals. So
I think some of it is he's in Philly, and he's in East where you have a lot of media attention.
Yes.
You have a bigger following than some other teams. Definitely the media attention. But ultimately, with the talent, with having home court advantage in the playoffs, and not getting past the second round has been really the thing that catapulted, to me, everything. And I think it would be worse if Ben Simmons didn't take a lot of the heat off.
Oh, yeah. Like if this team right now collapsed in Atlanta, you mean? Yeah, it'd be real bad. It would be bad for him and James. James would be getting locked now.
Being situation, in my opinion, kind of pulled away some of the heat.
Yeah, it buffered it, really.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but I do agree. Joker should be getting a lot of shit for this, and he doesn't. Like the triple doubles just wipe everyone's memory clean. Yes, he should have been.
I mean, the difference between
it might be a 3-time MVP winner without a ring.
Here's the difference. Here's the difference between Jokic and Joel, in my opinion, on how it's viewed. Not my opinion, on my opinion on how it's viewed. Joel was looked at as a dominant, great player with a really good team. Joker is looked at as a really good player, dominant player with an okay team.
You think that's how it's viewed?
That's how it's viewed.
In the past, though, not this year.
This year, because so they're like, but I'm saying it's a big deal for him to be in first place. But Joel did that already.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? But he did that. He's already been in first place.
Mm-hmm.
They did it. So last year was like, look what he's doing without those two guys. Now those two guys come back, and it was like, well, he got his team in first place. But you just said he struggled without those two guys, and now those two guys come back, and it's still him pulling them there. But now that we're in third place, it's looked like it's a huge difference. Our records are very similar.
Yeah.
But we're in third place. So now it looks like, man, he got his team in first place, but the records are almost the same.
I know, yeah.
But the expectations for the Sixers, especially when James came, is so much higher and so much higher in the preseason that people kind of look at it like, they doing good, they're okay. But Denver, look what they're doing. They're in first place in the West. And the records are almost the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's almost like Jokic is improving from year MVP to MVP, whereas, which is crazy because you might be a 3-time MVP player and you've never gone to the finals before. I mean, that's at what point does that catch up with you? I mean, my goodness, I don't know. That's the point I think Embiid's just trying to make with that. It's like, dude, why am I getting so much shit about this? There's guys with major accolades. I haven't even gotten my regular season accolades, and you guys expect me to be carrying my team like Jordan through a championship?
He has. You won't vote him. You won't say he's the MVP. You haven't voted him as the MVP, but you hold him to the MVP standards.
Yes, and that's the part he's right about.
Right.
So, like I said, he's right and
wrong. They know the talent's there. They know he's a really good player. They just like this guy a little better because he analytically puts up numbers.
Mm-hmm. Even though we came back with him on the court, by the way, last night.
Huh?
We came back with Jokic on the floor last night. We outscored him by 10 in the final 7 minutes.
What's the next question? The analytics?
Yeah, good timing for that. There you go. Yeah.
I think it's good for the game. But I also know that the eyeball test matters. I tell you all the time, Steph Curry is the guy I go to when you always talk about analytics and numbers. Always. Russell Westbrook, James Harden has more assists, rebounds, and points than Steph Curry. Chris Paul has more points and assists than Steph Curry. But if you go and ask all these people that are watching, who's the best between the four, they'll all say Steph Curry. But people that didn't watch the game, the people that's born way after us and never seen anybody play, they're going to look at the record books and they're going to say, well, how do these guys got better numbers than him if he's the better player? That means you had to watch. You had to watch. You just had to see it. Then you would believe it. That's why I'm saying, I do like analytics, and I think it's necessary. But I do not think that you can eliminate the eyeball test. I do not think analytics can measure someone's heart and desire and the work they put in. It's a good measuring stick, but it's not the ultimate finalizing measuring stick to me, because it's just so many different things that you can't measure with it. You can say, well, this guy should be doing this if, according to this number. Well, what if the guy's playing against Kevin Durant and the guy behind him is playing against Chris Warren? That matters. Chris Warren's a great player. He's just not Kevin Durant. You know what I'm saying? I'm just making up names, and I'm just saying, if it does matter. So that's what I'm saying. Like, you can't necessarily say what a guy should be doing, and all situations aren't the same.
TJ Warren, is that you meant?
Yeah, TJ Warren. I mean, I'm just saying, I just said Chris Warren. I mean, because I just threw a name out there. Like, he's a guy that's not Kevin Durant.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you just make up a name, and we know who Kevin Durant is. And all I'm saying is, it could be, Devin Booker and Kevin Durant aren't necessarily the same type of player. I'm sure Book understands that. As good as he is, he still understands the difference with KD, with his size and what he's done. I'm just saying, from a standpoint of who you're defending, who you play your minutes against matters. So how can you, from an analytics standpoint, throw that in there when guys aren't playing the same amount of minutes, and aren't competing against the same guys? Like, those are just some things that I just wonder, like, how they determine that.
Yeah. I think even Chris Paul, when Curry gave him that "this ain't 2014 anymore" comment, I think Chris Paul's response was kind of like that. It was like, "I'm above you in all-time ranks, dude." So he was kind of like, you could say what you want, but I'm still regarded at a higher level through all time. You know what I mean? So it's kind of feeds into what you were saying about,
yeah.
A lot of guys will say Curry, but when you ask older heads, they'll say, like, no, Chris Paul actually is probably a better overall player than him.
No, I'm not even saying who's better. I'm just saying from a standpoint of, analytics, and then people would say, don't take the mid-range shot. And we see Joel taking the mid-range shot all day long, and I never hear people say that's a bad shot.
Yeah.
They never say it. But because he's good at it.
Mm-hmm.
So they just call him an exception.
Yeah.
They call Kevin Durant an exception. Like, you can't just say this is how you feel, and then all of a sudden when a guy does it differently, you call him an exception. No, that works.
Yeah.
Analytics. I love analytics. I love stats. I think it's great for the game, but at the same time, it's just muddied the conversation so much and given so many different people reasons to have my guy versus your guy stuff that I think is also kind of ruining the game. So I think analytics in a way are good. I think they're being used improperly. I think they're being.
I know a lot of guys, and I'm not going to say any names. I know a lot of guys that feel like analytics was just a way to get people into basketball that can't play.
It's a good
It
point.
has done it.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of guys that I know that firmly believe that. It's a lot of people that worked in the NBA for a long time that feel like that's how people got into the game, that couldn't play, couldn't coach, couldn't do anything, can't deal with the players directly, don't know personalities, can't do a lot of this stuff. And this was their way to get in, to create a path. And a lot of new younger ownership could relate to all these numbers that they're throwing out there because a lot of them came from that world.
Yep.
And they firmly believe that was just a way to get people in the league that they can't play the game of basketball.
And they saw the success of
yes.
baseball doing it too.
They can't play at that level.
Yeah.
So then they can, and then it depends on the ownership and the management on how well they view it or how they see it and how they receive the game on how much say they give that person based on how they receive things. Because what team has come out and said, and what team has come and be like, and has won a championship, consistently won championships because of analytics?
No, I was listening to Maury's interview a couple months ago, and he was even talking about how the whole analytics game's so exhausted that there's not much of an edge to find anymore. Like, you're not going to find a guy in doing analytics, playing with the numbers. You might find a guy adds a win to your total for the year and trying to crunch numbers. It's like the edge is it's not as prevalent as it used to be. It's just not, because everyone is got a huge staff doing it. And if everyone's running the same numbers, how are you going to get an edge over the next person? You're not interpreting them differently. I mean, the calculations are the calculations at this point, unless some new stat comes out in like a few months, which wouldn't surprise me at this point. But that's what's making the MVP thing race so moneyed, is that there's a new stat every day, there's a new stat every week, and people are they're getting too far away from the eye. I think it's a nice balance of both, right? I don't think you can lie.
Statistics has always mattered. This has always mattered.
Sure.
Your points and rebounds, that has always mattered. Assists, blocks, it always mattered. But now they throwing out some numbers and some stats that I have no idea what they're talking about. Like, seriously, like I said, per 48. What does that mean? That's just another example. Like, what do you mean per 48? Like, just give me the minutes he played.
Adjusted defensive efficiency against a guy who's only played 12 minutes in the third quarter. It's like, what? I mean, this is why he should be an all-star over the next guy? Like, because he's got 3 percentage points higher at a ridiculous.
Marcus, that's your people, man. That's y'all, man. Y'all be talking.
Yeah, you're right. That is definitely not your people. You're right about that, man.
I'm not a numbers guy at all, other than the regular box score numbers.
Throwing them numbers out there like crazy, man.
I appreciate it, and I like it, but I don't think we base accolades and I don't think we replace our eyes with it. That's what I think too much is happening. Like, I mean, people aren't trusting their eyes as much anymore.
I mean, they're giving Joker all the credit for what they criticize Russell Westbrook for.
Yes.
In some ways. Joel is scoring, and guys have scored. Joel is scoring, and his rebounds aren't very high, in my opinion. But he scores the ball. Giannis is doing what he's always done and getting criticized for that. He's doing the same thing he's done the last few years.
Yeah.
Got the best record in the league. And the fact that he's not in the conversation for MVP tells you all you need to know.
Giannis has become like
the fact that all of these people go, the fact that all of these people go on television, all of these people go on television, and he's not mentioned in the first 2 names tells you all you need to know.
Yeah.
Like, it was, and I think I told you all, when ESPN did that poll, it was 5 people that didn't have him in the top 5. And I'm supposed to trust this?
But how come sustained dominance has negatively impacted him, but positively impacted Jokic? That's the weird thing, because
it fits the narrative of whoever's talking.
Yeah,
it fits the narrative, and Giannis isn't the guy that's going to come down and shoot the 3 and shoot all these jump shots and do all that stuff. But he's the most dominant. He may not be the most skilled, but he's the most dominant.
And maybe, like, what I think it was Shannon Sharp that said this too, right? He made the comment about, like, you were a top 3 pick, you're not an underdog type thing. Maybe that does hurt him versus Jokic in those conversations. Jokic was a second rounder diamond in the rough. And it's like people still think he's exceeding expectations.
But those guys they weren't here. I mean, they were in Europe, so you just never know. Those guys in Europe, when they come and they're playing against older guys, you just never know like how they were played. So we don't really know.
For sure, but I mean, I'm just saying when you're watching him, at least for the first couple of MVPs, it's like, I can't believe he's still doing this. I can't believe he keeps doing this. He's incredible. Where it's Embiid, it's like, oh, he's supposed to do this. He was a top 3 pick. He was the best player in college basketball coming out of the draft.
Yeah,
it's
but
like,
they don't say that about Giannis, though. You know what I'm saying? Like he gets the same treatment as Joel, and he wasn't the top pick and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And we watched him. We watched his development. we watched him develop his body, his game, and everything.
Yep. Yeah, it makes the Giannis thing even more weird. Like I said a minute ago, I think he's like going to football. He's like the Andy Reid of like basketball players. Like every year, just kills it every year, but you never hear him in Coach of the Year conversations anymore. Yet he's got.
I firmly believe it's just people are doing and saying what fits their narrative. And I think the one thing that Kendrick Perkins did do was when he threw race into it, then all of a sudden Joel became
favorite
first in a lot of people's votes.
Yep.
Let's not act like that didn't matter. So the one thing that people know, is that in this profession, being assumed or called a racist is not good for you.
No.
Yeah.
No, it is not.
It's not good for you. So as one of my friends told me, when they do these polls for Joel, it'll change right now, but it ain't going to change their vote.
Yeah.
They're still going to vote for him. But these polls will change because,
the polls and the clips. They
both playing the same way. I mean, yes, Denver lost, but the records are still the same.
Yeah.
So I'm like, man, if y'all just basing this is like they basing it on a couple games. Like, that's Marcus and them. Y'all people do that type of stuff. Man.
What?
Based it on 2 weeks. Man, 2 weeks, man. We the best team. He the best player in the league. Look what he did the last 2 weeks.
People want to take points away from him for not playing last night.
Yes. Of course.
Yeah, Perkins was one of them, actually.
Come on. I mean, it's the game.
Jokic didn't play in Milwaukee. You want to talk about that?
Yeah.
No, this is more fun to talk about.
Just saying, he didn't play in Milwaukee.
The article didn't help that, though, because everyone saw the article being released as like a pump up to that game, and it was like followed by the article was, "Oh yeah, I'm not playing, by the way."
Yeah, it took away the anticipation and enthusiasm for the game.
It built it up and shot it down like a minute later.
It was already built up, but not playing just – and it's always not playing and it feels like it just comes out of nowhere not playing.
Mm-hmm.
Like it wasn't like you got injured. We're like, man, I wonder if he's going to play. How's he doing? Then you're kind of anticipating that it was a possibility that he wouldn't play. But we all felt he was playing.
Yeah.
Well, like you said earlier, how do you sit out one game, then come back and play 40 minutes? Similar, he's grabbing his calf against the Bulls. He plays in back-to-back. He has a day in between the Nuggets game. Then all of a sudden, he can't play in the Nuggets game. It just seemed weird. But in retrospect, he probably should have sat out the Suns game and then played in the Nuggets game.
He went to warm-ups yesterday, too. Like the pregame shoot-around or whatever, the one at noon.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say, just based on the whole expectations and stuff, and I think it is more team. I think Embiid just kind of wears the whole Sixers brand on his shirt, obviously. And when people say, like, every year, it's like, oh, if the Sixers don't make it to this certain round, there's going to be a big blow up. And, like, you hear that every year with the Sixers, but you don't hear that with teams like the Nuggets. You don't hear a blow up like we know when they don't get to the conference finals or the finals. There's no, oh, man, they need to blow it up. Every year, I feel like it's ESPN. They talk about what team has the biggest. If they don't make it to a certain round, what team's probably have to blow it up and have a new look next year. It's the Sixers.
I touched on that earlier when I said the expectations for the Sixers and how they're viewed as a team that should be winning, and Denver's not viewed that way.
It's crazy.
Everybody's like, "Wow, I can't believe they're in first place." But if you go back to a couple years ago, they were first or second.
Yeah.
It's like, they've been first and second for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of people attribute that to the Harden acquisition, being like, okay, this is an all-in move, which it was, but people were saying that before Harden.
Yeah. They're saying
and
the
they
same.
People were
also
saying
were-
that
they-
when
but
the
they
Sixers were one
also
of the
were-
younger teams in the
They
league.
also had the number 1 seed before Harden.
Yeah.
So if you looked at you getting Harden now, then okay, you already did it without him.
Mm-hmm.
This should take you past all the things that you accomplished before.
Yeah.
Or didn't accomplish.
Sixers have just gone through a lot of weird phases with team building. The Butler year kind of peaked it like, okay, this team is no more process. This team is championship hunting now, right? And then that team got like broken up and the whole Horford thing happened. And then they kind of like not a rebuild, but kind of like a retooling. And then Morey had to kind of cut down that, get rid of cut losses, and then kind of start from scratch. And
But I mean, the when they broke, hold on. When they was Jimmy before we lost to the Hawks?
yes,
Yes.
Yeah, so that was the year before?
Jimmy was the Toronto bounce year.
Yes. And then we had the best record in the league the next year.
And then it was the
No, it was the Butler, and then the following year was the getting dominated by the Celtics in the bubble, and then the Hawks.
Yes. The Horford bubble year.
Horford,
So
Josh.
the bubble was after
Jimmy.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then the Hawks.
Because Miami went to the finals in Jimmy's first year
Got it.
in the bubble.
The bubble. Got
And then
it.
the year after that,
We had the best record.
best record. Atlanta.
Yeah, I don't really
A lot of ups and downs. Hard.
yeah, I don't really. I mean, the bubble was tough, man. I just like that. It's kind of hard to.
Yeah, that didn't count. The Lakers championship didn't count.
I mean, it counts. The championship counts. I'm just saying it's kind of hard to.
I'm just kidding.
I firmly believe things would play out differently, for some series if it was home and away. I just firmly believe that.
Yeah. And that was Brett Brown's last year, or last season with us, and then it went to Doc the Atlanta year. That was his first year with us. Yeah, I mean, only with 2 years? I mean, it's just for them to say for these talking heads to say Sixers don't get to the conference finals, they're done. You might see a new head coach. You might see James gone. You might even see Embiid gone. Morey might be gone. It's like it's that like same kind of conversation and banter every year with the Sixers, regardless who the coach is.
Why do you think it shouldn't be like that though? I mean, it's been 4 years.
Well, as far as Doc being, with Doc and Morey being there,
Not Doc and Morey, but with Joel being a top player, it's been 4 years. 4 straight years, if you count the bubble.
I mean, I think
We haven't gotten past the conference finals. But if you look at all the other teams around us, they all have.
So, I mean, would you say the thing is to cut bait with one of the best players in the league and try to?
No, I'm not saying you cut bait with him. I'm just saying like the expectations that are on there, and for people saying that it could be some changes made is an accurate statement. If you don't get past the conference finals, if it's the conference semifinals, if they don't get past the conference semifinals, I'm probably going to expect changes. Not that I would do it. I'm just saying I would probably expect it and would maybe be surprised if there aren't changes. Because it's still, no matter how you look at it, no matter which coach was there and which GM was there, it's still 4 straight seasons where you didn't go past the conference semifinals.
Yeah.
No matter how you shake it.
Yeah.
And the one common was Joel was there.
Yep. Joel and Furt.
Huh?
Joel and Furt.
Was Tobias not there too?
Tobias too. Yeah.
Tobias. Well,
the big three.
I think we all know who's going to be the first one to go out of that group.
Yeah.
Well, based on what you said, it's only because of salary.
Yeah, it's a big reason, but yeah.
He's been the most consistent as far as playing every game. When all those guys are out, he's always the one playing. And, I will miss that if we do end up trading him.
He is he's most consistent. Yeah. And if no one's there and everyone's there, he still gets his 14.
Yeah. All right, we're going to shift the direction in a different conversation here. So this is more about officiating, which has been kind of something that been kind of a theme over the last 2 weeks. Well, the theme, you can make it a case for every game of the season. But according to the NBA officiating, the last 2-minute report, there was a crucial foul against the Bulls on Harden that was missed in overtime last week in the loss. And then last night, they missed that Jeff Green, when he caught the ball out of bounds, which would have given the Sixers ball back with 13 seconds left, and we could have probably potentially tied the game. Around the NBA,
which you can't review, by the way.
Yeah, and I think Doc thought that if you see, they showed him outside, he was talking about out of bounds. You can see read his lips saying something.
What's the point of having reviews anyway? Sorry, go ahead.
But yeah, around the NBA, there's been a stir about how refs are officiating games, and recently Trae Young said some interesting comments. So, quote, refs should be held more accountable, fines, suspensions, just like us. They shouldn't get we missed it passes. So open the floor to you guys. Do you agree with Trae Young? Should there be more accountability for refs when they miss calls, making correct calls or bad calls?
Speak from the heart, Eric.
I mean, players miss shots, so they be accounted for missing shots.
That's a good point.
So I get what Trae is saying. I do understand that it's some accountability that should be taken. I was always under the impression, and I was told when I sat in referee that it was consequences for them. And I was told that the league didn't publicize it because they felt that it would be a constant for that particular referee in every place that they went to. But I was told that it was a system as far as people were penalized. Like they have to fill out paperwork, look at video, and they're criticized and judged and critiqued far more than the players are. And some of them are demoted, some of them, and I don't think the players really notice that. You know, you may have a guy that's a crew chief, and all of a sudden he's not a crew chief. Or he was getting playoff games, and all of a sudden he doesn't get playoff games, or he gets fewer games. There is a system in there, but the NBA has always been big on not letting that get out about referees. And I understand that. I mean, it would, you have a guy that does something, and now he's doing it, and everybody already know who he is. So how many times do you see that carrier guy? He makes they're human just like everybody else. Like he does something. Oh, I told you this guy, this and that. It's like the guy that
Van Vliet called out.
No, that they're saying every time Chris Paul has him, Chris loses.
Foster?
Yeah, Scott. And Scott is a good referee, and he's a very arrogant guy on the court, but good referee. I thought he was fair, and I thought he was good. I just didn't think he was easy to talk to from that standpoint, because he gave off the vibe of, if I called it, I'm right. That was sort of the vibe he gave off.
Do you think refs hold grudges against players?
I think everyone can hold a grudge on the situation. So I don't think referees are any different. If someone does something to you that you don't like, or say something to you, you can hold a grudge. You probably have somebody that did something to you, you're like, man, I'm not messing with him anymore. Like, they aren't supposed to, but
they probably wouldn't let me be a juror on their case.
They aren't supposed to, but I don't think that. I think that they're watched enough that if it's deemed excessive and maybe retaliating towards a guy.
Hence the Van Vliet, the guy who got,
Yeah, I mean, and that guy it was an issue because I think they probably found that it was violent.
Yep.
So I think that's the case. If a guy can prove, like, man, prove with evidence, man, look what this guy has done against me, then it's some accountability. But just to say it and not really having the proof, when we played, I know with Coach Brown and AI had a real big issue with Derek Stafford. Real huge issue. Every time we played, it was just like, as soon as the referees walk out, because back then you didn't really know who the referees were. Now you know who the referees are, but way before, like we didn't really know who the referees were until they walked out. Or if you happen to see them walking into the building, like you didn't know. So every time he would come, like, oh, there we go again. Like you would get that feeling like when certain referees would come, and it was really either AI had an issue with one of them or Coach Brown had an issue with one of them. Nobody else on the team really did. Like from that standpoint, I didn't like I said, like I didn't have an issue with, like I'd say Scott, since we talked about him. I just knew that you really couldn't say anything to him. Like, whereas I could talk to Steve Javie, but Allen couldn't talk to Steve Javie at all. Joey Crawford I could talk to. Joey could talk to Allen sometimes. But you just had to know them. But yeah, Steve and Allen, there was no talking whatsoever. Now that felt more personal than any referee player relationship I've ever seen in my life. Not today, Allen. Like from the tip.
He was already over it.
Oh yeah, Steve. Yeah, but Allen knew that he had a quick list. Like he would give him a couple of talks, and once he got a tech or this and that, then he'll leave him alone. But to answer your question, I do from coaching in the G League. A lot of these referees that are in this league were getting heavily criticized in the G League.
Wow.
So I do feel the NBA might have a talent issue with referees.
So some of the names that are officiating the games were these guys are refereeing in the G League, and you remember that some of these guys?
I know there were guys in the G League that my head coaches were like criticizing and writing reports about that are like main guys in the NBA right now.
Wow.
So I because it's not an easy job. It really isn't. And I really think the NBA may have a talent issue with referees, because I know some guys that are very capable college refs that told me they'll never go to the NBA. Well, I know guys that left the NBA that are only do college that no, I'm never going back.
Wow.
Why?
The expectations, the amount of games and things you like. So they have to do a lot, man. It's not an easy job.
It's a grind too, man.
It's not an easy job.
Man, it's a thankless job too.
It's not. I mean, you looked at as the bad guy no matter what call they make.
Yeah. half the fan base, half the fans hate you, no matter what.
Yes. No matter what call you make.
No matter what. And one bad call can erase 47 minutes of good calls.
So that's where I really do think it's a talent gap.
Yeah.
I do know that it has some people that never played the game.
It's huge.
So it's hard to develop a feel. It takes a lot of games for you to kind of get that feel, and then you get that feel at the fastest game there is as far as basketball, at the pace.
Different emotional intelligence levels too. I feel some guys they look angry, and you're like, dude, you can't be that rigid. And
I mean, it's a fine line between. I'll say it like this. There's rule book calls that you got to call. They're strict by the rule book. But if a guy is grabbing the guy's jersey and pulling it a little bit, do you call it or do you talk? And it doesn't affect the play. Do you call it or do you talk him out of it? That's where a lot of the older referees were good at. Snow, let it go, let it go. I'm watching, let it go. If you don't let it go, I'm gonna get you next time.
Like
Or do you just call it?
Like a boxing ref.
Or do you just call it? So that's what I'm saying where I think the gap as far as the refereeing that I had. So a lot of the crew chiefs now came into the NBA like when I came in or after me. And they're like the main guys now. Like Tony Brothers is a crew chief, and Tony came into the NBA like around the time that after me. But you didn't see, but I seen him like grow to that position, but I haven't really experienced that same growth with other people behind Tony. So I don't know. And that's where I think it's like I see how long it took for Tony Brothers to be a crew chief. I see guys now, and it did not take that long.
Standards possibly lowered.
And I think it's a talent gap.
Yeah.
I don't think you have as many people running in there, and I don't think you have as many people doing it as long.
Yeah.
Because it's some people that I know, some people that I seen ref some games last year, and I haven't seen them ref anymore this year.
That's interesting.
So I know some people, because there were some people that were doing G League and NBA games. They were doing both.
Wow.
Their part of their schedule was G League, part of their schedule was NBA. And then within a couple of years, like all those guys that were doing, they're like in the league.
Yeah.
Like it was a shortage almost.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So I mean, I see, it's a fine line because I seen a referee crew where one of them was doing NBA and G League, and one of them was doing my son's college games and my other son's rec games in the G League.
Wow.
So one of them was doing my son's rec games, another one was doing my college son's game, and one guy was doing NBA, one guy was doing, but they were both doing on the same G League crew.
Wow.
Crazy.
So you can't tell me it's not a talent gap if you have a guy that's doing rec travel basketball and the guy that's doing NBA on the same crew in the G League.
Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah, refs, it's such a mystery. Like what I mean, you're right. And they do try to keep it under wraps for good reason, because it'll also become a witch hunt too. Once you start like publicizing their shortcomings and who's bad at what, everyone's going to be looking for it. They're going to be hunting down the next guy who's bad at it now. Like you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, accountability is good, but how far? Because yeah, you're right. Guys don't get fined for missing shots. I mean, yeah, you get benched, as we saw with Matisse. So I mean that happened. Like, so there is penalty for missing shots. You don't get fined and lose money from it, but you do lose playing time. So yeah, I mean, to a certain degree, I guess there is some kind of penalty for playing poorly in the game. You don't have the NBA coming down on them. It's the team that comes on. And the NBA doesn't be like, all right, Trey, there's a bad turnover with a minute left, man. I'm sorry. You have to get fined $10,000 for that. So, at least that's not happening. But I get a problem with a big emotional problem too. Like, it's been happening for a long time. Remember the whole Tim Duncan thing where he's staring at the ref and the ref called a T on him from the sidelines? He was just sitting on the bench staring at him.
It was Crawford.
That was Crawford, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, like stuff like that.
That's something Joy would do.
There's what happened in baseball. I was telling Mark.
Yeah, but that's something Joy would do.
staring at
Joey
you.
got criticized. Oh, yeah, Joey got criticized for that because, and I think he had to apologize stuff because he made it personal. That was personal.
Exactly. Yes. You can't let emotions affect your game plan, your calling. Because if he was that emotional in that game to do that, what else was he calling poorly against that team? That's just where he showed it, right? How many calls that he wasn't obvious that he didn't like Tim Duncan and the Spurs that game. Like he reffed an entire game with that attitude. It didn't just spring up at that moment. Like he had it the entire game. All those times where your guy hated Iverson. I mean, yeah, it might have exploded at a T, but he didn't like him that entire game. How does that affect when your best player, when your ref hates your best player or doesn't like him and they don't get along? How is he reffing those games against him? Like, I mean, I don't know. It's their job to manage it, but I was telling Marcus I was watching a baseball game. It was a Phillies. The catcher was holding back his glove for the ump to give. I don't know if you saw this, Eric. The umpire hands the catcher a ball and he throws it to the pitcher afterwards. So the catcher had his glove back like this, waiting for the ball. I guess the umpire was taking too long, so he put his glove down. And while he was putting his glove down, the umpire drops the ball. But the umpire, I guess, thought the catcher was trying to like make him look stupid or embarrass him. He throws him out for moving his glove. And it's like, whoa, man, you can't. I mean, like, this isn't a traffic stop yelling at someone for a red light, dude. You're umping a game. You can't do that stuff. So, I mean, it's happening to all sports. People seem to manage their feelings better.
All right. So we're going to last topic here. We got rematch against the Dallas Mavericks from a couple weeks back when they just couldn't miss from three. This time it's at home, Wednesday night on ESPN. So Mavericks, recently, there's a lot of struggles out there. Luka's saying he doesn't have fun playing basketball anymore. They've lost 4 of their last 5. We don't know if we'll have Harden or Embiid. Doc said there might be Harden tomorrow night. Embiid he didn't know about. But we'll pick this game with Embiid and Harden and without them. We'll give you both options here. But as of right now, Sixers are a 5.5-point favorite in this one tomorrow night. So who do you guys have in this one? We'll say Harden plays, but without Embiid. Who do you guys have in that?
It's a big game for us, but the Mavericks really, really need the game.
Yeah.
They're fighting for their life.
They're out of the play-in right now.
Yeah. Yes, they are. They're fighting for their life right now.
I say if Joel doesn't play, we don't win.
Oof.
I can't say we win every game.
What about if Joel plays?
We'll win. We'll win.
Okay. He beat us pretty bad last time. That's got to weigh on them, right? I'm going to say both play, we win. I'm struggling about the no Joel thing.
Well, I mean, did they say James is playing?
The way Doc said on his,
he'll play later on in the week, but I don't know what that means. I mean, Friday or Wednesday.
I thought he specifically talked about Wednesday night.
Oh, did he? I thought he said later on in the week he'll play. But on Monday, everything's later on in the week. So thanks, Doc.
He was certain that he would be playing when they head back to Philly on Wednesday.
Oh, okay. So James, no. Embiid. I'm gonna say I'm gonna say we lose.
And obviously, if Harden and Embiid are ruled out for the game, that spread will change. So 5.5 is a lot of points to give, even with one without the other. So,
wait, what? There's a spread right now.
5.5 as of right now.
We're favored by 5.5.
We're favored by 5.5.
Oof, I like that. Well, I mean, based on spread,
but they also not saying that Joel's out.
Yeah, they
but
haven't said one or the other.
I think we'll see how the line changes. That line intrigues me a lot. If Joel doesn't play and that line stays around that, then I take us.
Mm-hmm.
Because 6, I mean, we're both struggling right now, us and them. And without our best player and with a gimpy Harden, 5.5, 6 is a good amount against another team that killed us last time.
Yeah, I'll take that. That was straight up. A spread, I would take us on the spread. Take them on the money line.
You get some good juice that way.
Joel.
Yeah. I'm gonna go us covering either way with or without Harden and Embiid. I think the 3-game skid, and I think the way the guys fought at the end of last night's game, I think that'll if we are without Embiid and we just have James, I think our guys will fight for this one.
Yeah. We did that against Dallas too, by the way. Remember, we came back at the end
with the reserves. Yeah, they give Ferg some more minutes. I know there's we have a fan on our Twitter account who keeps telling us that Ferg needs to get more playing time over PJ Tucker, which I don't understand how that makes any sense. But yeah, I
don't know, man. Ferg took it to Jokic yesterday. Maybe Ferg can be a candidate.
He did.
Nice move.
It was a nice move.
He came ready, man. Reserves got to stay ready.
Yeah.
And by the way, I apologize earlier. Chris Paul did not make that comment. That was a troll account that said that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the comment about I'm still an all-time better player.
Okay. Yeah, because I saw that online too. I thought that was kind of like
yeah. When I actually looked at it, it was one of those NBA Centrals with the Central misspelled.
Oh, gotcha.
So
gotta be careful with those.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I know. It's brutal.
Or those to Musk.
Yeah. The only thing he did say was because Curry's comment was saying 2014.
Said I don't remember what happened.
Yeah, Paul was like, "No, what happened in 2014? Tell me. Well, seriously though, what happened? Like, I don't know anymore." Which I like that response too. Actually,
it's a good rebuttal. Yeah. But all right, fellas, that does it for us. We'll see you guys Friday as you preview a really huge weekend. We got Friday against Toronto. We got Sunday against Milwaukee, and then Tuesday we got Boston. But we'll get into that on Tuesday. Yeah. Some big games coming up. All playoff teams. Yeah. Final stretch. All right, fellas. Well, we'll see you guys Friday.